All right, so I'm going to show you a picture this morning, and almost like introduction to Matt sermon. If you can see up there, recognize anybody in the picture? So this is Dale, and her daughter Brandy, and they and Bruce and their family was part of this group for a long, long time. And Bruce drove them down from up, Kentucky, Virginia line where they live, down to North Carolina. So that's Shauna and Nora, and they're starting right now on a 60-mile hike along the Appalachian Trail. Yep. Yep.
Fun. What a gym.
Sounds
like fun.
Right. Yeah, is it fun? They're going to sleep on the ground.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
60 miles did not kill me. That
No.
is it for me.
But
I don't want to drop.
the reason I show you that picture, the rule is don't talk about people when they're not here, right?
That's not the same Bernard.
Actually, think about it a different way.
That's how we did it here.
Corey and Heather aren't here. They're doing a baby moon weekend.
Oh,
Kind of a tradition is like when you're getting ready to have a baby, maybe you can sneak away for a weekend just to remember we gotta be in this together because we're getting ready to jump off of a cliff of an adventure.
again.
Again, but they're new parents, right? That's their label right now. A couple of years ago, and I'll pick on Roman. Roman's here today. Roman took on a new label a while back, couple years,
Almost 2 years.
of Marine, right? And when he was leaving, a lot of us might have looked at him and said, "Man, I can't believe you're gonna do that. That's so hard, it's crazy." Or, "I can't believe you guys are gonna do that. That is a huge, difficult, tough thing to do." And he did it, and they're gonna do it. They're gonna finish it. But the reason I bring them up and bring up doing hard things is that you find yourself a lot of times in those moments reaching into your gut and saying, "Oh my gosh, can I finish this? How am I going to make it through the end of basic? Or how am I going to put up with this one more challenge? Or how are these guys going to make it one more week without each other when they were separated by over 1,000 miles?" So these ladies are going to be asking themselves, how do I finish one more mile? How do I make it to the next campsite? How am I going to finish the week? This is so tough. But for the last several weeks, almost, we've probably been doing the series on the people. Remember when Matt did the characters, right? That whole series had started with this question of who are we? There's an identity question you ask because Roman identity becomes Roman the Marine, or ladies become, I'm an Appalachian Trail hiker, and they have got this notch in their belt kind of thing. So Matt's going to talk this week just about this question of the old Gatorade commercial. Is it in you? What is in you? And when you get into a hard thing, what comes out of you? Because we all know the old verse that says, whatever is in your heart, whatever is on your heart, whatever God has put in you, those are the things that come out in difficult times. And he's going to kind of unpack the question of who are you? What's your identity? All right? Let's start with prayer, obviously, for those ladies and for us this morning. God Almighty, in Scripture it says, we are the kingdom of priests. We are made in your image. So no matter what label we end up with in life, sometimes it's husband, wife, or son or daughter, or sometimes it's things like angry or athlete. We end up with these labels and we think our identity comes in these things. But will you help us this morning as we unpack Scripture to find ourselves asking the question, what do you call me? Who do you say that I am? We pray for safety for the ladies on the trail, but also gratitude, just like Mandy brought up this morning. Gratitude in the difficult things, because we see what you do through those challenges. We pray this in your name with expectations.
Amen. Well, I almost feel like I don't need to say anything now. All right, let's just pray and get out of here then. Thanks, Kim. Let's go. Gave me permission. You got a question already, Lindley? Okay, let's start this off with a question. Let's do it.
Does that change? I'm assuming
Does what change?
the
Identity.
title or identity as you go through life. I'm assuming that it changes.
Yeah, multiple. You get married, your husband, your wife, answer them with a question.
So, continue.
Everybody had W out there.
That is a very good question, Lindley. I'm trying to. Well, let's see what happens to Jacob, because we have one more week of identity. I was going to start a new sermon series on the Bros, but I felt like we have to go back to a character before we can get to the next one. We have to end this series right. And so it's interesting that you say that, and I'm wrestling with how to answer that, and I hope that you bring that question up at the very end, and let's ask it again. Could you do that? All right. So if you have your Bibles, grab your Bibles, open your phones. Genesis 32. I need two good readers, two confident readers. Kim, you didn't bring your glasses? Come on, Kim.
No, I
Can't see when she gets it.
Goodness.
Dark in my eye.
Genesis 32. Somebody read the first 15 verses. Yeah. Somebody read the first 15, and then somebody read 16 through 32. Who's got it? Andrew, you got the first part?
Well, I was looking it up and I didn't hear what you said.
Okay.
So Genesis 32, what?
1 through 15,
1
please.
through 15.
And then who's got
Are there
16
hard
to
words
the
in
end?
here? I don't like
No, there's no hard words in this one. You're
Just
okay.
saying.
That's true.
All right, Genesis 32. This is Jacob, right? Oh wait, we gotta find someone else. My bad. I was ready to go.
She's all nervous.
Say less.
Anybody? Aaron,
Say
you have
less.
16 through 32?
All right. Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." So he called them at the place something. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, the
Seir.
country of Edom, instructing them, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, male servants, and female servants. I have sent to tell my lord in order that I may find favor in your sight." And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you, and there are 400 men with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided the people who were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into two camps, thinking, if Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the camp that is left will escape. And Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. I am not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant, for with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude." So he stayed there that night, and from what he had with him, he took a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their calves, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkey and 10 male donkeys.
These he handed over to his servants, every drove by itself, and he said to his servants, "Pass on ahead of me, put a space between drove and drove." He instructed the first, "When Esau my brother meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong, where are you going, and whose are these ahead of you? You shall say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a present sent to my lord Esau, and moreover he is behind us." He likewise instructed the second and the third and all who followed the droves. "You shall say the same thing to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, moreover, your servant Jacob is behind us." For he thought, I may appease him with the present that goes ahead of me, and afterward I shall see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. So the present passed on ahead of him, and he himself stayed that night in the camp. The same night he arose, he took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 children. He crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and everything else that he had. And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day has broken." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then he said, "Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." The sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the people of Israel do not eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh.
Excellent. Has anybody not heard this story before? A few people, maybe? Yeah. Interesting. So this is the end of, if we remember the story of Jacob, we talked several weeks ago. Jacob growing up in the house of Isaac, and who's Jacob's brother? Esau, right? So there's this tension in the family, and Jacob leaves, and he goes to find a wife, and so on and so forth, has these adventures. Now, this is the story picking up where he is coming back, if you've been reading the story. And so one of the most famous lines that we read about this, that is talked about a lot, is this story, this encounter that Jacob has with who?
An angel.
He has this wrestling match with somebody, right? The commentary on this is all over the board. There's not one single consensus that says, yes, we agree on this. There's some people that say that the identity, well, the Torah says it's a man that he's wrestling with. The rabbis, the prophet Hosea, if you go to the prophets in the Bible, Hosea calls him an angel, as you just said. The sages, interesting though, this is very weird, in the Talmud and the sages of old, they call him the spirit of, I think the name is Samael is what they call it. And it was the guardian angel of Esau that he's wrestling with. And it was more of like a demonic spirit that he's having this wrestling encounter with. And this is very popular with the sages. Jacob himself says what? Who does he think he wrestled with? He wrestled with God, right? So there's all of these ideas of like, who was this that Jacob wrestled with? And it's just it's a fascinating story because, like I said, nobody can agree on this because there is no consensus. And one of the things that, as I studied this years ago, that just like it impacted me to the question that you asked at the very beginning, that I have never been able to shake, and it's not like it's the right one, because like I said, any of these could be right. There's not one right one, but this is the one that, as I looked at it, that impacted me, and it really kind of changed my life years ago. And so I want to share that with you. And so to understand this story, we have to do what? What do we do all the time? What are the 4 things that we have to look at?
Context, culture, history, language.
Language. Good job, Kim. Yes. And so these are the things. And so to understand this story that we are looking at here, we have to go back in history, but more specifically, not the general history. Whose history? We have to look at Jacob's history. We have to look at Jacob's life. We have to look at Jacob's entire life, his entire background, to see how is this actually unfolding here. Because Jacob, when he was born, what was he doing?
Holding on to the heel of Esau.
Of his brother, right? Esau. He's born holding on to the heel. And what did he do after that? When Esau came in and he was hungry, what did he do?
Give him red soup.
He didn't give him red soup.
He bargained with
He bargained what?
his
He
birthright.
sold the birthright to him, right? So he sells the birthright. Then what does he do after that? What's the next big event that happens between Esau and Jacob and Isaac? He steals the blessing, right? I got to move this. He steals the blessing. And when the blind father tells Esau what happened, what does Esau do? What does Esau do when he says, Your brother stole your blessing, the firstborn's blessing. He stole it from you.
So, I think I'm gonna kill him.
As soon as dad's dead, killing that guy. Right? He's furious with this kid. He can't believe that he stole the blessing because this is a big deal. And so as I was looking at this and studying this, Jacob was the child who always wanted to be Esau, who always wanted what Esau was about to get. Why? Well, Jacob was the younger. Esau was the oldest son. That's a big deal in that culture. What else? Esau, he was strong, physically strong. He was a hunter. He had this physical nature about it. He was good. Remember, about just about it. Anything that he picked up, he could do. He was also, maybe this was a more important part, he was also the father's favorite. Remember what it said? Isaac said he loved the taste of his wild game, and it says this in the Torah. He loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Jacob is the perfect example of this study. You might know this, Allie, anthropologist named Rene Girard. You've heard of him? Yes, okay. So he came up with this theory, what he calls mimetic desire. Mimetic desire is the idea or the desire that you want what someone else wants. Because we don't know what we want. So we take on what other people want for their lives. And, well, you want that? Well, I want that too. Is what Aaron was saying. He was talking about titles. Or you're a Marine, or you're this, or you want to be this, or you want to be a successful CEO, or you want to be a pastor, or you want to be a principal, or you want to be an athlete, or you want to be this or that. Well, yeah, that's what I want too. I want to be those things because I really don't know what I want. So I'll take on what you want because the cause of this is a longing for identity. I don't know what I want. I don't know who I am. Genesis 32, we just read this here. Even his faith, and Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac." He still doesn't even know his own faith quite yet. It's still not quite his. And most of our desires fit here. No, go, come on. Stopping it right now. Let's go.
I gave him the job.
Could that be a metaphor for him wrestling with himself?
Hang on. I told you to wait until the end, didn't I? Didn't I? Man. I'll just skip to the end. I'll just skip to the end right now, Lindley. How about that?
I'll leave.
No, you good. We have fun taking my identity. I like it.
We all struggle with these things. We all, as human beings, it's not just Jacob, it's not just a few people. It's in all of us. We struggle with this idea of mimetic. And Girard says that people who are really close to maybe a coworker, a sibling, they're the ones that have the greatest struggles. Because when I want what you want, then what happens? Then there's a rivalry because only one of us can have this. I want to be the shortstop. Well, there can only be one shortstop on the field. I want to be the CEO. Well, there's only one CEO. I want to be the principal. There's only one principal. So now we're competing for this job. We're competing for this position. So there's going to be this natural tension always that just keeps butting up against each other. And if we look at it, what was Jacob and Esau's relationship like? It was nothing but tension, constantly, which eventually gets to the critical point of, I'm going to kill that kid. Because he didn't just earn it, he took what was mine.
This
So-
is a result of bad parenting.
We've already established that, all right, a couple times. Bad parenting is a problem here. But here's what happens when there's bad parenting, right? It continues because Jacob flees. He flees the situation. He flees his parents, he flees his brother, and he goes to Laban, a new family. And what happens there? Well, he has more conflict. Conflict with Laban. He has conflict with his multiple wives, right? He has conflict with his children. Then on his way home, he sends messengers out to Esau to hopefully earn some favor. And what do they tell him? You read it? What do they say?
He's coming.
He's coming with what?
400 men.
Wait, what? He's coming with 400 men, right? And what does it say right after that? Jacob was what? Freaking scared out of his life, distressed.
Does
Why?
that mean that he's coming to kill him?
He doesn't know that. It doesn't say that. He just says they're coming with 400 men. And then it next says Jacob was fearful and distressed. Why? Because he doesn't know the intentions of Esau.
And he deserves what's coming.
And here's the thing. You just hit it on the head. Because the Torah says two things. He was afraid and it says he was distressed, which is odd. Why would you give those two emotions? It usually doesn't put too much emotion in the characters, but it does here because you hit it right on the head. He's afraid. Maybe he's distressed because why? Maybe he deserves it. And he realizes, I've created this problem. I dug this hole. This is the result of my choices, my actions. And maybe I deserve this. Esau feels cheated, and Jacob felt fear. And that night, he's about to meet Esau again after an absence of 20 years. And what does it say? Verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated, and he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me. So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob, Yaakov. And he said, your name is no longer Yaakov, but Yisrael, because you have striven with God and with men, and you've overcome. Jacob wrestles with who, Lindley?
To me, it sounds like himself. I'm
Jacob wrestles with himself. Jacob finally throws off the image of Esau that he's always been wanting to become. And he finally releases that. He's been carrying this for years to want to be this person. And there's a wrestling match that has to take place. Yes, Don?
So he's changed. He's crippled. Explain that to me.
There's no explanation for that. I don't know.
He hurt himself wrestling with himself. You ever tried?
He's left with
He's left with
it.
a lifelong
Right. The thorn.
mark.
He's left with the thorn.
Something. This is the most critical moment in Jacob's life. From now on, he can now just be himself. No longer trying to please his parents, no longer trying to please his mom, trying to have what Esau has. Now he can finally, in this match, and it's a physical, internal struggle. I don't know if you've ever gone through anything where you've really had a really hard time and it leaves a mark on you and you'll never forget it for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And it uses a metaphor, maybe literal, like it's a hip, but it changes him. And he'll never be the same again.
No Jewish idiom or anything about the hip? No, nothing.
No. That's why this story is so you can look at it from so many angles. It's just a powerful thing. And it literally, the Jewish people no longer eat that part of the body on any animal, right? They avoid it.
You don't normally eat the sinew. What is a sinew? To me, that's a ligament that holds the hip into
Yeah.
That's the tablet.
Some people eat it,
Sorry, doctor.
but I don't know, like the Jewish people do not. Yeah.
Gotta be hard to chew, I can tell you that.
But here's what's interesting. It's only when we stop wanting to be someone else that we can actually have peace in our life. It's only when I stop trying to please somebody else or trying to want what somebody else wants and just be okay with who I am that I actually have peace finally in my life. Not just with me, but also with those people around me. And this goes back to one thing we've taught for many years. Nothing changes until what?
I changed.
Right. Maybe so much of the tension that I have in my life isn't because of all these other people. Maybe it's because of me. This is one of the greatest challenges that I've found in parenting or in leadership and so many places in life. Too often, the leaders try to be popular. They want everybody that works for them to like them. But what happens then? If I want you to like me, then I'm gonna start telling you what you want to hear, and because I want you to like me, then I start telling you, well, we got to do like this, and you ask me questions like, oh yeah, we should do it that way, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, you told me to do it the other way, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm just saying things to please the people around me, and then what happens? Then I lose all credibility because I have no integrity, because I don't actually know what my principles or my values are. I'm just trying to please people. And then it causes nothing but tension and destruction. It takes courage, not only to stand up for what you believe, but to actually know who you are and why you believe those things. Because there will be people who don't like what you believe, don't like what you stand for, which is why it takes courage. Last week, we were celebrating the 250th anniversary. There was many things that I was studying, and I'm good at getting off on rabbit trails because I love history. But I came across a quote from the New York Times about Abraham Lincoln, which wasn't 250. He's 100 years later. But it said this about Abraham Lincoln. In the New York Times, he has been denounced without end as a perjurer, a usurper, a tyrant, a subverter of the Constitution, a destroyer of the liberties of this country, a reckless desperado, a heartless trifler over the last agonies of an expiring nation. And these are the people that in the North that are supposed to be on your side. How do you react when people don't agree with you or say harsh things about you and vile things about you? Jacob couldn't become the leader that God had called him to be until he knew who he actually was. And this is a struggle that he had to go through, a literal wrestling match struggle to figure out one question: who am I? Not who my parents want me to be, not who, the people or teachers or pastors or bosses or anybody else who think this is who I'm supposed to be. Not my desires, like my selfish desires to be like you. No, who is it that God created me to be? This very unique individual that nobody else is like. And as I looked at this, Lindley, going back to your question, Israel literally means to wrestle with God. If the image of God is stamped on every single one of us, then we all must wrestle with God and with ourselves. And it's not until then that we become comfortable within our own skin that we can actually have peace in relationships, peace at work, peace with other people, peace with the decisions that we make. It's then that we have the confidence to know, even if people say evil things about me or negative things about me, I'm okay with that because I know who I am. This story reminds me every year that I read it don't forget who you are, Matt. Don't forget who God created you to be. For some, this is a story of a constant reminder of identity. For others, it might be, it's time for me to step out and own my own faith with God. I need to wrestle with God because this faith is mine. It's not my parents' faith. It's not my friend's faith. It's not my other church's faith. This is my faith that I have to wrestle with God. The creator of existence. He wants you to wrestle, to become what you were created to be. In fact, it's the only faith that says that you are supposed to have this wrestling match with God all the time. Most world religions said this is what you're supposed to believe, and you have to believe these things. The Bible is the only one that says, no, you're supposed to question. You're supposed to wrestle. It's supposed to be this struggle that you have with God on a regular basis. Which for a lot of people, that doesn't make sense. We want certainty in life. We want clarity. We want things to be black and white. And God says, no. You got to wrestle with this and figure it out. It's going to be hard for you. Which is why I think all these things seem to come together, because what happens if when you work out, who likes to work out? Right? Not many people, right? Kim is like, ugh, working out. No, right? Working out is a hard thing. When you run, you guys run, right? When you haven't ran for months on end and all of a sudden you jump up and put your shoes on, you go for a 2-mile run. What happens, Lily? Is that easy? No, it's hard. Out of breath. That's not it, right? That's one thing, but it's hard. When you lift weights, when you pick up heavy weights, Roman, right? What happens to your muscles? They get sore. Why? Because you're actually breaking the muscles down. But it's only in that breaking down process that what happens next? That they rebuild and get stronger. It's like God created all these things to connect with each other for some reason. That's the same way that we have a relationship with Him. It's hard. It's a struggle. It might break us down. We might have this internal wound to make us realize and remember, don't do that again. So that we never forget, these are the mistakes of my past. Yeah, okay. I've moved past that. I've been forgiven of that. The scar's there to remind me, this is the direction that I'm going. And God has changed me from that. I am no longer that. This is who I am. I wanted to ask Lindley a comment first. Did I answer your question? Because you hit it, you were right over the target right from the beginning.
Right. That's, I mean, to me, that's what it's always about. You're always changing, and you do wrong things, and then you have to wrestle with that. You know, it's a constant change.
Constant, yes.
What if?
What if?
What if you knew, or someone taught you early, that you are a child of God,
Mm-hmm.
you are loved, and your purpose on earth is to spread that love?
Mm-hmm.
What if you started with that before all the messages? You know the messages. I was telling Kim on the way.
Sure.
So I'm supposed to be a father, right? I have 5 children. My son gives me a book at 72 years old or 70 years old on how to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's got all this stuff in his book. You know, we get so many messages that we're supposed to be like this. If you're a good father, you're supposed to be like this. What I've gone down to is, and I've had the struggles and so on and the wrestling, because I've been wrestling with my ego and been wrestling with the messages that have been given to me through my whole life, right? And I've had the brother thing and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's where the wrestling comes in with God.
Sure.
I agree with you. But what if you knew before? You follow me? What if you knew that love is really the basis of life, right? Before the fear creeps in.
I think that, to answer your question, I think that for a very small percentage of people, that works. And I think that it doesn't work for the majority of people because we have an inclination to, we have two choices. We can choose the good or we can choose the evil. And for whatever reason, we struggle with always wanting to choose the evil until we get to a place of maturity where we recognize, boy, that's a stupid decision. Why do I keep doing that? And I don't know if it's because of a selfish desire. And I only say this because thousands of years these have been taught. And if it was that easy, Don, I would agree with you. Of course, this is the easy thing. But thousands of years, people have been saying the same exact thing. It's actually in Deuteronomy 6:4 that we're supposed to do that.
But you know why, huh? Because we don't understand love in its true sense of unconditional love from God. We don't understand God's love. Just like she said, it's the parenting. Yeah, the parents were screwed up from the beginning. Yeah. And you just go back. You know, go back to Abraham. Who were the three guys that met with Abraham? You know what I'm saying? It's another instance of you don't know who it is. But my point is, if we could get it correct we win in the end, right? We win in the end. Martin Luther says justice comes a little bit, but it's a very slow arc, right?
I mean, to love and to be part of God or walk with God, whatever you want to say, it's hard. It's easy to talk about people and
But if you think it's hard, it'll
do
be
wrong
hard.
things. Well, it's hard. I mean,
But if you start
to
with
me,
it being hard, it's not that hard to love people, really.
It depends on the people. Go ahead, Aaron.
Whenever you mention the word Israel, we think of the land of Israel and we think like, oh, that's God's special place on earth. Or you mention the people of Israel, you think, oh, God's chosen. The irony in this is the word Israel means wrestle, struggle. And the people of Israel, or the Jewish people, you could say, have struggled. But the reality is, every time maybe you think about, oh, that person's chosen, or that's the golden child, that's the chosen one, think about that with Israel. But the very word means to wrestle. So it would suggest that the process is never over. No matter how much progress you think you make or how many chapters you have in your life, those labels are in the past. You still have to wrestle and continually pursue Him and your authentic you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think also too, I really like was from what I remember, because but one thing too I noticed too, the wrestle between the angel and what was it Jacob, was that it kind of just reminds us of God. I guess before you kind of surrender and give your life to God, is this wrestling match of surrendering, a wrestling match of it's my will over God's will. And to eventually you come to that point in time where you be like, no, I think that's the thing that's kind of the case. That's what the story just reminds me of. And the change afterwards, you know? That's what the story just kind of reminds me of.
I know when you were teaching, one of the assignments used to be to write your own obituary for identity purposes. Was the assignment for like how, I'm sure it was how you see yourself, but it was also how other people see you? And I mean, it's going to be the good, right? You're going to write about the good. Would people ever write about something that might not have been so good? You know what I'm saying? Like
I would write about my not good past. for
in
sure.
your own obituary?
That's part of me, for sure. That's part of my life. I'm not gonna hide it. I'm not gonna sugarcoat everything that happened.
The assignment was for you to write from the perspective of the audience. How would they, what would they write about you?
Okay.
Not necessarily what you would want them to say or, you telling a story about your life, but what would third person say about you? Because then that is like the idea of like, okay, who am I?
Because somebody else is going to write it, typically.
Right. And always in the obituary, it's always the character of the person. It's not how much money you made or where you lived or where you like these great things. It's about your family. It's about the kindness or the empathy that you shared. it's never like he was a dirty, rotten blankety blank. Right? Nobody's going to share that in obituary. But usually you can see that type of character, and when the obituary is like that long, right? When there's nothing to say, that's when you know, like, oh, okay, what type of character was this person? So the idea is then, okay, am I reflecting who I am and who I'm supposed to be, who God has called me to be? Do I reflect that image of humility or selflessness or empathy or generosity? Do those things, are they a part of who I am? Not that I'm trying to get people to like me or want them to see me that way. Is it genuinely who I am? Because your character is what is seen, how you live your life. You can't fake that. You can try to fake it, but everybody sees through it eventually. The question is, am I really this person? Who am I? And am I allowing that to come out, or am I just pretending all the time? Yeah. All right. Lindley, you want to pray us out? Since you started this message?
God, thanks for giving us the opportunity to question, so we can find out who we are, and to help us discover not only who we are, but how we treat others and how we are expected others to treat us. And just please guide us and help us to find ourselves.
Amen.